Avoid Unison. This company duped an elderly man into the equivalent of a 40% interest rate between 2019 and 2023 when the average interest rate was 3.84%. My goal is to raise awareness about equity share programs, specifically a predatory company called Unison. Hi, I'm Cassidy Benson, a real estate agent in Denver, Colorado, and I just closed on the sale of a home with a lien holder on the title of the property known as Unison. If you Google Unison, you will see their marketing promotes a smarter way to access your home equity without interest or monthly payments. Yes, no payments, but you will pay the ultimate price at closing. Here's what happened to my clients. I was working with two brothers. They inherited a house from their late father. Their dad purchased the property for $80,000 in 1997, and it was completely paid off. As their father's health declined, he needed some money and signed an agreement with Unison. The agreement was signed in the summer of 2019. The agreed upon value of the house in 2019 was $432,000. Unison loaned the father $60,480 in return for 70% of the change in equity from 2019 until the sale date, November 2023, about 4 years. We put the house on the market for $530,000 in the summer of 2023, and the best offer we received was $515,000. In the contract with Unison, the owner agreed that he would correct all deferred maintenance. Unison had a specific list of the deferred maintenance items in the contract that the owner agreed to rectify upon receiving the money. I would argue that the deferred maintenance that he agreed to remedy in the contract was worth more than the $60,480 he borrowed. So starting out, he made a really bad agreement up front. In the deferred maintenance agreement from Unison, the seller agreed to fix major structural problems, deteriorating paint, repair the original windows, replace all the galvanized pipes, fix the patio structure, repair the subfloor, the slab, trim trees, and update the electrical in the house. Surprise! These items were not repaired because the elderly man needed the money for health expenses. When we went to sell, the contract says that Unison can independently, without the estimate of costs, apply the dollar amount adjustment for all deferred maintenance. And the investor shall have no liability in connection with the failures to cure the items, defects, or conditions. This house was in really bad condition, and if you look at the photos, you can see that there's an enormous amount of deferred maintenance, even beyond all the things originally listed in the contract. For the deferred maintenance, the sellers had to pay $18,436 in repairs for the buyer. The owner borrowed $60,480. Before the closing, the seller was required to pay that money back plus 70% of the equity between the valuation of $432 in 2019 to Unison's valuation of $526,000 in 2023. It is important to note that on the open market with a professional real estate agent, the highest offer was $515, but Unison did not think that this was a fair market value. Within the contract, they have the right to adjust the sale price to whatever they felt the fair market value was. And they came to the number $526,950, which is almost $12,000 than we are able to get on the open market. To be honest, they could have said it was worth whatever they wanted. So I guess they showed us a little bit of mercy. Unison's 70% share of the equity ended up being another $465,000. And the seller also had to pay for the inspections and appraisals, which was another $1,000. For deferred maintenance, the sellers paid $18,436 in repair. They paid $97,901 to borrow $60,000 for 4 years. I figured out that that would be equivalent to paying a 40% interest rate, which would have been around $2,039 a month over that 4-year period. Strictly speaking, from a real estate agent's perspective, if you have a seller asking you to list their house and there is a lien on the property from Unison, I would approach with great caution because it thereby becomes your responsibility to help the sellers negotiate against this company, which has very predatory practices. As a real estate agent, I was put in a tough position where Unison was requiring me to provide them with the inspection report and the appraisal, which was definitely not in my seller's best interest. In addition, I was also the person that became responsible for providing estimates from the contractors for the valuation of the deferred maintenance. Also, definitely not in my client's best interest. However, the seller's goal was to sell the home. They had debtors they needed to pay, and the only way to do that was to cooperate with Unison in order to get them to agree to release the lien on the home. With consent from my clients, I worked to accomplish this by accommodating many requests from Unison. I was responsible for getting many estimates from local contractors for all the deferred maintenance items. As you can imagine, this is a lot of extra work for me as the real estate agent to engage with Unison, but also with so many different contractors. I always try to go above and beyond for my clients, but I do feel it was much more than the normal duties and expectations of a listing agent. Typically, we just request a payoff from the lien holder, and it's pretty simple. Even the title company does that. It's probably responsible for a real estate agent to charge a higher commission if Unison is involved in a sale. I feel that it would have been in the seller's best interest to sell the house in 2019 rather than work with Unison. He would have made about $432,000. Although the value of the house did go up $83,000 in the 4 years, Unison took 70% of the equity and then they tacked on another $31,000 in expenses, so the seller did not benefit at all. Unison took advantage of this man without giving any benefit. The owner could have sold or even taken out a HELOC and would have had a better outcome. Consider yourself warned. Don't sign a contract with Unison. Best of luck.